Welcome everyone to another awesome episode of Lessons from Success. This week we have on the wonderful Rebecca Wilson, and she's the founder of Starts at 60 and the newly expanded Travel at 60. Rebecca has recently won the Startup World Finals here in Australia, and she's off to San Fran to pitch for $1 million in mid-May. Now, Starts at 60 is Australia's largest online media for baby boomers and continues to expand their offerings from health, money and news into offering amazing travel opportunities for baby boomers in their retirement. During the interview, we go through so much, including hiring the right team, what it takes to build a good pitch, building a business by adding value, and so much more. It was an absolute pleasure to speak to Rebecca, as she's such a lovely person in every regard, and that truly does show in her business culture as soon as you walk through her doors. Now, before we jump into the interview, don't forget to give us a follow on Lessons from Success _podcast and on Facebook at Lessons from Success as well. We'd also love a rate, review and subscribe via iTunes, and if you leave your personal details, you'll get a thank you from myself. Now, without further ado, let's get this started. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We've got Rebecca Wilson on from Starts at 60.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am delighted to be here with you. It's very exciting. One of my early podcasts, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. Many more to come, though, I'm sure.
Oh, you've got me curious about podcasting.
Good. I hope you expand. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a chat today just about your business and everything that you've been doing lately. You've recently won the Startup World Cup Nationals here in Australia, which is probably the most awesome thing I've ever seen, and your pitch was probably the most awesome pitch I've ever seen.
Oh, aren't you nice?
But we'll start a little bit more simple, and we'll just go into your business and then go from there.
Wonderful.
Awesome. So how did you all get started, and how did this all start?
Okay. So 6 years ago, I was working my day job running my marketing consultancy with 3 young kids at home and working 5 days a week still, running my own consultancy for CEOs, guiding them on how to make money out of their consultancy businesses, B2B companies chiefly. And I developed that for about 10 years into quite a good little operation, but it was really just me and one other person. And we were watching a lot of our clients with property development, looking at their 2-bedroom apartments selling to young people and going, wow, this market's going to stop. And you kept looking at the trend saying, oh, the baby boomers got to be ready to buy some houses that are a different type to the ratty 2-bedroom apartments that are hitting the market. There's got to be opportunities to sell to this market. And you start to look around and you watch your parents, and all of a sudden the light comes on. You're watching them at 60. And my in-laws and my parents had all just turned 60. And they seemed to be lost on what was next. They wanted more than their parents had. They're hitting the best stage of their life at the healthiest stage, but they're also losing some of their best friends to early cancer, things like that. And sort of getting those really big ricochets of, well, I've got to live my life better. I've got to have a better life than ever because I've worked hard all my life, and that self-realization that they're going through with their kids all left home. You know, we'd all gone and had kids and become quite independent, and we're no longer, I guess, the reason for them to not do things, which we were for many years. And I decided basically to start a $40 template. Can I make you laugh?
Wow.
Actually, no, I rang the web developer I work with, and he will laugh at this. And I said, would you help me build a website? I've got a great idea. And he said, nah, not going to help you.
Not interested, sorry.
He said, nobody wants to make content. Content's a dog's game, Beck. And he laughs about it now because he's a shareholder in the business.
Oh, good.
And he did help me. He set up that $40 template and he said, you've got to learn how to use WordPress. You've got to learn how to do this yourself. You've got to, if you want to scale or grow something valuable, you've got to do it the hard way and work it out and work out how to build every bit of it. So he put it on a server and he said, away you go. And I learned how to build my website over the next couple of months, and then I started publishing. And from March the 13th, 2013, we've never stopped publishing ever since. So that day we started, and I think that's possibly the biggest lesson I can say is the perseverance, even on days where you were sick, hungover. There was never a day we have not published. There's never been a day the server's gone down for longer than an hour or something. You know, so the commitment to being who we are from that day on was something that we just kept learning who we should be.
Yeah.
For the 60-year-old. Right?
Consistency is key, right? And that's exactly what you were saying. Do you know what surprised me? Because I did a little bit of work in superannuation, and it's amazing to see, because I guess before that I had no idea whatsoever, but we were getting phone calls from people in their early to mid 60s going, I've just retired, I've got all this money in my super, they have millions in the super or whatever, and they're going back to work because they just have absolutely nothing to do. Like they could not stand this, like just sitting around the house, they couldn't stand any form of that, and they were going back to work because they couldn't find anything else that gave them fulfillment.
One of our advisors calls it, and he's in his 60s, and he works with us on lots of things, and he says relevance deprivation is one of his biggest challenges. He's retired, he's sold businesses, he's extremely successful, and now he's on the other side of 60. People look at him and go, wow, you must just want to sit on your bum and do nothing. And he's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
The whole idea of losing your relevance at 60 when the average age of lifespan for today's 60-year-old is 87 for a man and 91 for a woman is just blindingly sad.
Yeah.
But there's never been a generation before them to change the way. This is the one changing it. So they often say you can see an economic shift in the rearview mirror, but you can't see it in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping what we're seeing is the transition of an incredible demographic shift.
Yeah.
And that we're in the middle of it and we won't be able to see it until 10 years later.
Yeah.
That this generation has always changed the world. They created rock and roll. They created feminism.
That's so true.
They created, I guess, the property boom that we all lived through multiple times. They created the disasters in the economy. They created the internet, right? They found their way out and they changed the world to what they needed the world to look like to fit them. Right? Every time when it looked boring, this generation made it interesting.
Yeah.
And the privilege I have in watching my parents and having the inspiration come from them is that they're all different. Like I've got one at every end of the wealth spectrum, if I have to say. So I can look at people doing it all different ways. And now that we've grown a community, and that's what we did. We grew a community before we grew a business. And the reality is I poured a lot of my mortgage and my life savings in for 18 months to building a community first of people who wrote for us who were 60, who had authentic voices and real commitment to being a part of something special. And so I grew that audience with real content that was relevant to each other. And then we grew out the news proposition and the media proposition, which was about publishing the types of content people would send viral as well as engage with.
Yeah.
And then we grew out the business propositions, which you have to sustain growth. So,
of course, yeah.
It sometimes feels hard doing it that order. And I wish I'd just plonked a business in the market sometimes because it would be easier than to fall in love with the idea first.
Yeah. Hey, at least you fell in love with the idea. A lot of people like that, right? So.
Well, I think it would be very cold not to be doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would never address this market for the wrong reasons. These are our mums, and I have a big ethical thing in our business where we only recruit people who have a value alignment with the demographic. They actually have to want to do well by the 60-year-old. Those people have to think out the way the product's going to be better for them, the way the services we provide or the content's going to be better for them, and give it the best they possibly can. And that's just what we do here.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people out there that are doing the exact opposite, right? So why not make that shift in the market and be one of the leaders that are actually doing it for the right reasons?
Trust is the most, when you're dealing with people's mums, trust is the only thing you trade on.
Well, how quick is it to make an enemy if you ruin the lives of someone's parents? That'd be that's some generational hatred.
And let me tell you, this generation talks more on social than any other generation. So you get that wrong, you're stuffed.
And it always made me laugh when people were saying, like the older generation, they're not using Facebook, they're not using social media and stuff like that.
Do you know how many really, really significant agency people, even the Human Rights Commissioner in my second year, I went to see for aging, the Human Rights Commissioner for Aging, and she actually turned around to me and said, "Oh, you won't find any of us on social."
You're kidding yourself.
And at that point, I think we had an audience of 500,000 people every month, all over 60 in Australia. And I was like, okay, so challenge me.
I don't know. It always made me laugh when people say that, because as soon as my granddad, before he passed away, he was always the leader of technology. He was like, the Blu-ray player came out, he got a Blu-ray player. The Blu-ray recorder came out and cost a ridiculous amount of money, and he wasn't a wealthy man, but if the cost a ridiculous amount of money, he had to have it, and he had to have the latest and greatest of everything. And then on the flip side, you're hearing people say, no point using social media advertising to target an older demographic. It's like,
no, you start at 60,
crazy.
it's okay.
Yeah, exactly right. right. And also, you've got 30, you expect people to retire at 60. They've got 30 years of retirement ahead of them. What are you going to do for 30 years of retirement?
Yeah, and you also don't want to be spoken to like you're a 40-year-old. And that's where this market has really become, I guess, special to us, is that I'm 40. Right, I recognise that how people speak to me tends to be how they speak to the mass market. They either speak to you like a 22-year-old, assuming you want the same things as a 22-year-old, and then they leave the rest of the market out. And if you look at travel advertising, for instance, people really speak to people through the lens of, oh, you're double income, no kids. You must want an idyllic holiday on a tropical island. I can tell you now, a 60-year-old wants adventure. They're not taking a holiday to get away from their life. They're taking a holiday to have some stuff going on.
To get
so
the
whole
life.
Concept of holidays for this generation is completely flipped around to the ones for you and me.
Yeah.
Where we're escaping and resting and relaxing. And these guys, when they go on holidays, they're like, give me more. I want to see more. I want to do more. And more inclusions and more stories and more history and more culture. And so just thinking about curating directly for the demographic, by being on the journey through Media First, we learned to curate the media they wanted and create the types of stories that were valuable to them. Now we're working in travel to curate the types of products and travel products that they really will get the best out of.
Yeah.
And serve them those. So it's really exciting.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I guess I've never really given it much thought in terms of they would want an adventure more so than you or I would want an adventure, because we're looking to actually relax on our holidays, whereas they're not relaxing, I shouldn't say, but they're home a lot of the time just doing what they usually do. They want to break out of that
routine, man.
Yeah,
break the
just
routine.
get into it.
The reason my parents' holiday is to tick off stuff.
Yeah.
Rather
The
than
bucket
settle
list,
back.
right?
They largely only come home to unpack, rest up, catch up on the jet
gotta
lag,
do-
and
you
book
gotta-
another holiday, man.
You got to do some washing. I mean, come on.
I know. In fact, no, my mother-in-law is on a cruise right now in the Northern Oceans above Abu Dhabi, and she has worked out the laundry system for her cruise ship. So we're totally like...
Yes.
It is.
So she never has to come home, basically.
Oh, she's having a ball over there. I'm getting photographs by email every day of the week. It's wonderful to watch them adventuring their lives.
Yeah, that's so good.
Because that's what this generation needs out of their retirement.
Yeah.
They need adventure. They need financial security. They need to make sure that their health lasts as long as their bodies will.
Yeah.
Right? Because if your health is good and you're financially secure, you can choose to travel. Right? And travel is something that only the enabled with health and financial security can do.
Yeah.
Not all travel is expensive.
No.
In fact, there's some incredible travel bargains that we can get our hands on now. But you have to have all that in balance.
Of course. And if you're looking at the long-term stretch, it may be a relatively well-priced holiday, but if you're looking to do X amount of those per year, I mean, the cost adds up pretty quick, Smart, right?
We actually talk about the beautiful community desires that you see at different stages of retirement.
Yeah.
So it's quite fun to have worked with this community now for 6 years and know them quite well.
Yeah.
And you know that when somebody's discovering retirement, they're looking for a different type of holiday as to once they're over the first hurdles and the romance of retirement and they're into the real part. And then they're actually trying to just back-to-back fill up their life with travel. And it's great. Whereas they come in with this idyllic view and they do these long holidays that tick off the big ones. Yeah. After that, they've done all the big ones and now they're looking for incremental stuff to just keep the vibe going.
Yeah.
It's a different way of then bringing them solutions and things that they want.
Yeah. Is anyone, because I know you're starting as travel at 60, is that correct? Yeah. So you're starting travel at 60. Is anyone doing it well in the market? And the reason I ask is because when I've looked around, for travel for my mum, for example, and things like that, there doesn't really seem to be much going. I mean, you've got your tours that are structured for an older
there's
audience
incredible
and whatnot,
operators up at the... and cruise companies, right? So all of those companies are making great travel options, right? And there's really good specialist providers of specific services. What you'll find is that every time you want to go someplace different, you're looking for a different mix of rail, cruise, tour, and independent travel. And who puts it all together for you if you don't need to buy what I would call vanilla travel agency services?
Yeah.
I mean, travel agency has got it down to the sort of rack rate standard for everybody, and it all looks familiar. You can walk into one store in one town and one store in another, and it is the same thing in a different box, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Who does retirement? Who does the trips you want to do, the distressed good value travel options in a box so that the companies are willing to clear it out, because ultimately companies won't clear that pricing out through travel agents? Or who gives them the dream trip with the trimmings on. So like a Norfolk Island, but not just going to Norfolk Island, doing the community rotational dining tour that people do, that go through people's houses and are cooked for by community members, mostly in their 60s. You know, when you go to these places, you actually want to go for the experiences, not just the cheap hotel.
Yeah.
Right? We can get you the cheap hotel, we can get you the good rate flight, we can match all of that. But the reality is you want the thing that's going to make your heart beat, the thing that you're going to come back from your holiday and go, wow, that's it. And so our source in Travel at 60 is that we know what somebody in their retirement or approaching their retirement is looking for as that little bit more. And we're not trying to jam you full of 2-for-1 bungee jumping coupons, right? Because that's what the vanilla model would say to you is 2-for-1 bungee jumping is going to get you over the horizon. We just don't. We're looking at our community and tailoring things for the 1.5 million people that we talk to every month who want to travel, and 80% of the leisure travel market is over 60.
Yeah.
There should be enough people to want to do some cool trips together.
Absolutely, and there should be enough people out there that want to put on these cool trips for other people as well, like you were saying with the cooking.
We work with partners and
like
things like that. So a lot of destinations already have these amazing experiences. It's just that they're not the things that travel agents package in their holidays, right? Yeah. They're not the things that traditional travel agents know about, because they're not retiree packagers. They're young people packaging the holidays, and that doesn't mean anything wrong either. We've got a very young, dynamic team here, but they're always keeping in mind the 60-year-old, right? So when we package a cruise company up, we're looking for the cruise and the foodie experience that's going to go together down in Kangaroo Island, and then you go for the winery experience, and then you go on the train up to the Northern Territory. And because you've got 3 weeks to travel for, you can.
Yeah.
Or if you've got 3 one-week trips a year in your mind, you can just pick up a quick and dirty sort of go-away trip. But they're more built around culture and experience.
100%, yeah. And that's, I guess that's what's different. And thinking now, the amount of travel agencies we have for someone in my demographic between 18 and 30 is crazy.
Right.
Like, you can, literally every shopping centre will have at least 1 or 2
student
of them,
flight.
right?
Like
student flights, staff travel.
And they have no money.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I tell
We're the poorer generation here.
Right.
We're supposed to be anyway. And then, they're not targeting baby boomers with this massive
but
superannuation
why wouldn't you
balances.
serve the consumer first and say, let me bring you the best holidays you can do? But I also believe firmly that all of that infrastructure weighed into shopping centres is an old era investment, right?
Yeah.
We want to bring people good pricing. We've got to bring it at a sustainable business. And because we're a digital company, it makes sense with our audience being all digital to move digital first.
Yeah.
If we can grow solutions and services for the baby boomer market, that yes, they're serviced by the call center. You can hear talking on the phones outside right now, right? They're there. The phones are there. We can give somebody the comfort of knowing that we've got an Australian-based call center right here in West End.
Yeah.
Or you can buy that product online and know that enables us to keep the prices down, which is what people want as well. They want their $1,000 product at below $1,000, and the only way you can keep those prices down is by not taking shopping centre leases.
That's true. 100%.
Right? By cutting down on your big TV advertising costs, by helping people understand you're here in a way that is more successful through digital and taking that digital model to the party.
Do you know what I love the most when I was researching your business is because a lot of people always preach this, but very few people live by it, and that's the more value you give, the more value you'll get in return, right? And that's the thing. Everyone's cool to say that. I say it all the time, and I try and live my life by it to a large extent, but there's definitely some parts of my life that I don't. But this business has actually been built on that. You started the media platform, you gave as much value to them, and then you asked them, how can we give you more value? And it's kind of been like an endless upward spiral from there, I guess you'd say.
Well, we're still only at the beginning, I'd actually say. Funnily enough, at 6 years in, I can't believe that. But we've never really run commercial businesses yet until maybe about a year ago, where we started to develop what they needed out of a travel marketplace and then work out whether suppliers in the market could provide it or would change to serve this consumer well. And then we realised that they didn't want to change very much. They wanted to be vanilla travel because that's how their businesses are geared for a mass market, in a mid-market buyer, and that's what works. So for us, asking other people to change their businesses isn't the thing. What we realised is that in order to bring our user the right products and services, we had to change. Yeah. And that part of our media business then becomes more focused because it wants to talk to people about travel and groovy stuff about travel, like what's cool in travel, because everyone wants to know what's cool in travel.
100%, yeah.
I want to know what cruise boat I should go on, not and which ones are doing cool stuff and which ones aren't investing in their cruising, right?
Yeah.
Because then you know which one to get FOMO on. But I don't know where I would find that information if I was 60. Right? I'd have to really specifically hunt it down.
It's pretty hard to as well, because you look down any of that, it's all advertisement for any particular cruise company.
So, and ours isn't. Ours is authentic journalism written by bloody tier 1 journalists that are fantastic at their game, right? And that's what we've really committed to doing, is writing great media and then building great travel and not letting either side down. And that's our commitment. And then the media business is supported by the advertising that it provides and the content marketing that we provide.
Yeah.
And the brands we work with are second to none. Like, we work with Australia's best brands. So
awesome.
It's a really big privilege that they want to work with us as well. Like, we're very excited to work with brands like Westpac and industry super funds and people that actually respect this consumer and want to be associated with the respect we have for them. That's enormously valuable in itself, that brands feel that need to align with the value we want to give. And we feel the need to align with good quality brands that also feel that way. And we will turn away if they don't. The brand doesn't seem to have that alignment and just wants to harvest them and flog them something. Right?
Well,
they're in business, but...
There's a line, though. There's a very fine line you shouldn't cross.
They're our mums, right? Again,
Exactly.
come back to, these are our mums and dads.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't want it done to your mum and dad, don't ask us to do it to our community.
Which is exactly fair.
Right? And if we work by that mantra every time we make a product, if this is something you'd love your mum to have, then tell your mum it's here. That's actually our biggest message, is if you want your mum to have great holidays they can trust the service providers of, tell your mum it's here, right? Tell your mum it's here.
Yeah. So how did you, just skipping back a little bit now, so how did you know this was going to become a great business? Was there a moment sort of after you started it up, or was there a big milestone that you overcame that you thought, oh shit, like this is actually happening?
Do you ever know? I don't know. I actually, right from the beginning, I had a view that this would be a scalable idea. So I guess I'd watched publishers back in the early day, and it was in the heyday of publishing when everybody was having fun on Facebook that I started this. So we were fortunate with timing that we could capture the audience really, really, I guess, in the phase that you could do that. You can't do that anymore.
No,
the
it was
world
popular
doesn't
but not
operate.
saturated back then, right?
Yeah, and the world doesn't operate like that anymore. Facebook's changed the rules. We're fortunate to have got in before they changed the rules, right? And they say business is about timing, right? But I guess all the way along, so in 2016 we raised capital from Channel 7 or 7 West Media.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I had pitched a couple of different places sort of 6 or 12 months before that, and had been selected for some scale-up incubators, and sort of decided that wasn't the right path for us. And those wonderful people from that scale-up incubator introduced us to capital, so to Channel 7. And so lots of fortunate things happened along the way, that because we had a good business plan, we had a squeaky clean approach to doing business, we developed value for the consumer, we developed a revenue model, which we had to do before we asked anyone for money. We learned how to pay our bills, and we were growing a cash flow positive business at that stage. You could then back up to somebody and say, and our plan looks like this, and we know how we're going to execute on it. And we're not asking you to bet on a dream. We're asking you to bet on something that's already moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part of the staging of that I believe in. Not all founders have to work that way. They some of them get money on an idea. I'm just a big believer that the best money comes on execution. And if you're delivering and continue to keep evolving your business model, because in fact there's nowhere to point to as a model that's working that I can say, hey, that model's working. In travel, I can pick some out and say there's elements of that travel model that are working, but they're spending an awful lot on media.
Yeah.
Well, there's no company in Australia that owns its own travel and media company, and yet travel is the largest spending sector in media. So owning your own media company kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's just about then nobody curates products as a media company in this country.
So why not be the first mover?
Why not have a go?
Yeah, why not?
I'm feeling brave.
Onto your pitch now, which is absolutely incredible. I think what stood out for me was exactly what you just said, where it was, you didn't just have a plan, you didn't just have an idea, you didn't just project, financials in the future of X amount because you could. You had the plan to get there, and you've got the backing to get there as well, which is what really, I guess, opened, what straight away opened my eyes was your energy on stage. That was one of the first things that really got me like, oh crap, here we go. But then after
I was number 8, so
yeah,
by then there was a lot of pitches.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, you were number 8, plus like a few of my good friends were on stage as well.
Yeah, cool.
And like to still be blown away by number 8 after I've listened to my friends, like what a feat, right? Honestly.
Bless, thank you.
But yeah, so how have you always been good at pitching, I guess would be my first question. And do you have any advice to people that are looking at like sort of getting their pitch together for their first round of capital or anything like that? Would there be anything that you could recommend?
So I started pitching 4 years ago, probably even longer, because every sale I do also requires me to pitch. So I'm in a very fortunate position of having pitched and taken investment from Channel 7, but in that process I'd pitch in competitions back with Startmate, I'd done demo days, we were selected for the Springboard Incubator, which is the female founders incubator, back in 2016 as well, and they really grounded you over a 4-day period in how to pitch. They taught everyone. Now I was past the term sheet stage at that point, so I was kind of humming along going, I won't need to know all of this.
I got this.
I've got this. I've already got my investor. But on the flip side, I've then come back and done another round of investment just recently. So I had to pitch for 6 months very, very actively. Even though now it's more of a conversation, you're not really pitching once you get to this stage of business, you're evidencing.
Yeah.
So people don't give you scale-up money if you haven't got evidence of traction. In fact, your seed money is the one you pitch for. And what we're pitching for now over in the US, to me, is seed money for the US. So it's this weird Series A requirement, which would be a Series B in Australia. But it's a Series A to enter the US. So you're back at ground zero again. You're pitching your idea because it isn't executing in the American market. And therefore you're starting where they don't trust that Australia is a place.
They really
I've done it before. I've been over to the US 2 years ago and pitched around America and had suggestions on how to enter, and decided, no, we had to come home and focus, get this business being resilient and strong, and enter on our own terms, so that when we raise bigger and for the benefit of the business rather than for the benefit of the VC. Isn't that what they teach you?
Yeah. May I ask what the plan is to enter the US market?
Yeah. So we're very, very focused here at the moment on travel and media growth and audience growth. The business has never been more focused. That model is proving out nicely. It's only sort of in its infancy. We only flipped out a travel agency and online travel selling business over the last 6 months, and that was a quick decision after moving an awful lot of leads online. Then the minute that is demonstrating what we need it to demonstrate, which we're a performance-oriented business, we have a view that we will expand media and travel together into 4 states of the US, the 4 states with the largest penetration of baby boomers.
Yeah, that was Florida, California, New York,
and Texas.
There we go. 3 out of 4 is not
Which
bad.
each of those states have the same population as Australia. Yeah. It's not easy to do what we're doing at a bigger scale. We've looked at it before, and you really need to make sure your business is humming with a great executive, because the worst thing to do is to get distracted from your core.
Yeah.
And Australia is our core. Australia is a very healthy, growing, sensible business with great legs in its market, all of the position of number 1 in media. You know, this week we had a major cruise sale. It came in top 5 in the non-wholesale businesses in Australia, moving that cruise. Oh. So we're proving we can do what we said we could do, which is magnificent, because you always enter new product streams and markets, and people go, oh, I just want to wait and see whether you succeed before I give you my product.
Yeah.
Well, now we're proving out with case studies and the faith of some of the companies that have come with us on this journey has been magnificent. They've been with us for the years before as advertisers, so them jumping over into selling with us is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that'll pay back for them, because we'll deliver more than we're meant to, is our job, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the US is about taking a lot of those existing relationships that are international companies operating in Australia, and just expanding on it. expanding what we do in media. We know exactly how to grow a media company, or dare I say, we know how to grow a media company. But there's lots of things to learn constantly. But we know exactly how we got here.
Yeah.
It will be different when you go into the US market, and we will partner with different people. We know we've learned a lot about investment. The piece is to have the right players around you to help you and support you, but actually know that you've got to do it all yourself.
How do you plan to get a lot of the media in the US? So are you going to have teams based in each state, or...?
No, at the moment we don't need to. The reality of our team here is it's a first-class team. We already service the US Facebook audience that we have from here. A lot of what we need to do is to review the requirement for finance and health, which are our big non-trending pillars, and operate those in relevance to the market that we would be in the US, right? So state-based tax systems, state-based superannuation, state-based... Or is it federal? And we haven't done that homework yet. That's the next phase. You never get ahead of yourself. You always focus on the business you're in, and the one that's 2 steps ahead, not 5. Because a proven model is absolutely the thing that will help you up the next part of the rainbow. But yeah, I'm very, very focused on travel, because if travel works here, it has incredible... It is a travel marketplace. It's not a travel retailer. Yes, we will have a whole range of first-party product, but there's a whole lot of very, very well-qualified suppliers already in this travel market that simply have no pathway to this consumer other than the standard newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, you go and open your newspaper. There's 35 to 50 pages of advertising in every weekend newspaper addressing chiefly this demographic.
Yeah. And
if that player could address this market a different way, how would they do it?
Interesting. Oh, what is the cost these days of advertising in a newspaper? Has it gone down quite a fair bit?
I haven't advertised in one.
No. I was just curious.
I don't think it's gone down, because those parts of the newspaper are the most crammed.
That's still, yeah, true.
So we're not a player in travel. We're a travel fulfillment provider. We're a travel partner. We're somebody that will help you build your holidays. Or you can buy one off the shelf that's been packaged with the best prices, all bundled up together so that you get the ones that people can't put in the market.
Yeah.
Right, that's the pricing that you dream of.
Yeah, 100%.
When we do that stuff. So and that's only because we have so much scale. It's like group buying. We can go to the market and say, hey, you got 100 cruises in that departure that you haven't sold yet. Well, we can get some really good airfares and match that with it. So let's help our community and the supplier network release that product out through the market the right way without sabotaging their businesses.
Yeah. What was your background in before this? You're in journalism, is that right?
I've got a part of a journalism degree. I never actually got through my cadetship, so the journalism market moved away from me in the year I was wanting to do my cadetship, so I had to go into marketing.
Oh, well, okay.
And working with a team full of journalists now is a real privilege, because they have all of the media ethics I learned and all of the stuff I did at uni that I dreamt of using, but I went into marketing, so I never used any of them. I ended up in content marketing, so a lot of my career was spent advising companies strategically on how to market to company to
just the B2B stuff.
Yeah, B2B really. I guess playing consumer, I have never done.
Yeah.
I've learned it all on this job.
Did I read correctly that you did a politics degree as well?
Yeah, double politics major.
Interesting. How was that?
How come I can never stop talking?
Oh. Well, that's a great way to learn, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be a politician though.
Were you just interested in the field, or probably a little bit off topic here?
And I wildly hated statistics, which is terrible in a digital business. I wildly didn't want to do statistics. It was the only major I could do in my business degree that didn't require me to do stats.
I still remember statistics in my business degree. It was an absolute nightmare.
God, do you know my life is statistics now?
It's
I
funny
can make you cry.
It's funny.
It's economics and statistics, and I failed both subjects at uni.
Yeah, but I remember my economics degree being like, shade in this graph of the section of X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been taught a little bit more practically. I'm going to blame the subjects as opposed to us, because I also didn't do very well in economics and statistics. I struggled as well. So
look, I was privileged, and we've just had QUT invest in the business, and I was privileged to go to QUT.
Oh, awesome!
So having the backing of your alma mater is fantastic. Their Blue Box venture fund invested in us, as well as the Queensland government. And Whole Out Insurance in our latest round, and Channel 7 again. So,
well, what's some great backers there? Wow.
We do. We're very privileged that they all understand our vision as well and have ethical alignment, which is really important. Channel 7 has the biggest audience in Australia in the baby boomer market. Whole Out Insurance get the way we want to do providing solutions to the consumer and really respect it.
Yeah.
And have known us for a long time. The Advanced Queensland are an incredible supporter when you're growing a team in Queensland. I mean, there's nothing better than the Minister of Innovation helping you along and supporting you, and the government. It's really a privilege, and QUT, wow. I mean, we can just reach in there and go, hey guys, we'd like some grads that are doing this to help us with something. And they go, oh, let us go find some. And we go in and work with the innovation teams, and the startup culture in there is just amazing. So lots of entrepreneurial people coming out of uni that we hope we can harness in the next phase.
I went to the QUT Blue Box. It was their networking night.
The venture night. I was there.
It was really
awesome.
good. Yeah, that was such a good time.
It was an absolute buzz.
Such genius minds there, and at the same time, still had such a community feel as well. It wasn't a disconnect.
Brisbane's an ecosystem now, man. Can you believe I used to go to Sydney for my ecosystem? Now I can get it at home.
Yeah, it's all at home now.
It is. It's beautiful.
No need to go to Sydney ever again, as far as I'm concerned.
I've got a team down in Sydney. You can't convince me not to.
Let's have a chat about you as an entrepreneur now. So
Okay.
I guess running the consultancy was also a little bit of an entrepreneurial piece too. Do you have you
or a cash flow issue?
Or a cash
flow need. I just had to work, and
that was
as a mum with 3 kids, I had no way to go back into a full-time job in the era I left the workplace. Mm-hmm. So that in itself spawned entrepreneurship, because flexible work didn't exist back then. I left my corporate job when I had kids, and they said to me, you can come back as a secretary.
Wow.
And I was an executive marketer. I was the only female executive in the business, and I went,
that's a bit of a KO.
Well, it's kind of just the world we were in. It was a very male-dominated business, very male. And at the first point, it was bruising. But then I came back to work on $20 an hour, right, to get back in. I was juggling kids. I had no idea what I was in for. It was difficult at best.
A nightmare.
Right? And you know, what you do is you learn a work ethic.
Yeah.
And that drives entrepreneurship in the first phase for me, or drove it for me.
So you'd say the number one thing before you do get into the first stage would be to gather that work ethic, unlike any other, basically?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I meet entrepreneurs all the time, and I meet aspiring entrepreneurs, and there's a very big difference between the ones I've met that have made it to a certain scale. And a lot of it is the stuff you don't talk about. And I do talk about it quite openly, and my team know the long nights and the hard work. There's so many hours go in before you have something, and there's so many hours go in after you have something, honestly, and so many hours of worry and concern, and worrying about people, and worrying about money, and worrying about it. And even when you have money, it doesn't stop, because if you use the money badly, it's your respect, it's your the trust people place in you that's on the line. And as an entrepreneur, that's the most important thing that you have, is the trust that your community, that your business partners, that your investors place in you, and even more, that your staff place in you to keep their families fed. Right? Yeah. That's an obligation.
100%.
They're putting everything to be here rather than in some big boring corporate. So that's a privilege, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where you wanted me to go with entrepreneurship, but
no, that's perfect. Exactly.
But for me, you know, I actually stop using, or I don't stop. My poor executive gets slacks on the weekend, and I write at the top, do not read this till Monday. This is just my brain working in the off time, and more, I just have to write it down when I think of it now.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's
Well, that's the difference between working in, I guess, a good part of a difference of working in startup versus corporate is corporate does tend to stop regardless of, I wouldn't say the highest positions, but does tend to stop at your 9 to 5 sort of role or whatever your hours might be, whereas the startup life doesn't really stop, does it? It never stops. And I think if you're working in there, that's something that you have to respect and embrace. For sure.
Look, I mean, I don't ask our team to, but the reality of being a 7-day-a-week business is our reality. So we have people rostered onto shifts. We do it all the right way. And we've actually had to learn how to do that, because my work ethic can't become everybody else.
No,
they can't all want to put 60 hours, 100 hours a week in. They actually have to have lives when they're employed for a wage. But the reality of being an entrepreneur is you're building something else. You're building a sense of purpose as well. And you hope that your team take the sense of purpose beyond their job. That's some of where we've built our value proposition, is that our team feel like they have more purpose, but hopefully don't work that much longer hours, because otherwise that's bad for them as a culture. But they do the things that are important. And that, they will always fix something that's broken, or work on some idea, or put a bit of extra strategy in, or just even dream about it, right? If you're just planting a seed in somebody's mind and they're lying awake thinking about it, going, oh yeah, that's a great idea, that's enough, right? If you get that back out of your team, that's magic.
Yeah, 100%.
So
leading on, it's a little bit past now, but leading on back where you were saying there's definitely been some struggles and things like that. A large question I love to embrace in this podcast, really to humanize the entire process, is have you had any big, I use the term failures, a lot of people don't like the term.
Heaps of failures.
Can you share some of the hardships, some of the failures that you've had along the way? Because I absolutely love
I can make
hearing
everybody
about
feel
this.
completely normal.
Please do.
I can remember back before we raised our first round of capital, sitting in the corner crying, going to my husband, why am I doing this? Why? This is so hard.
I just want to go to bed.
I just haven't slept in days and we aren't making any money and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I can remember it vividly. And then you get that first $2.5 million and you think you've landed on the moon, and then you have to work out how to run a business. Right?
Now you're forced to learn how to run a business,
and there was
right?
maybe 6 people in our company at that point, and we bought this building and we moved in, and you look around it now and there's 2 stories of people, and we were all in one corner downstairs. And
so much room for activity.
And we rented out the upstairs for a long time, hoping we'd grow into it. Right? But the mistakes are mammoth, right? They're spectacular, and yet they're not anything more than a lesson along the way. And so mistakes are not scoping things properly, not doing the speccing before you do the building, not understanding where people and projects align. And now we're going to keep making these mistakes. All businesses do. In fact, I am quite confident with the fact that all we're trying to do now is create a culture of making mistakes fast. If you really believe that hypothesis and you have enough evidence to test it out, then we can run at it if we think that's the best use of our money to get to our KPIs.
Yeah.
Right? That is the judgment call our team and our growth team are making every day. As you grow new businesses, you actually have to get better at making mistakes, not more afraid of them. Some of the biggest ones you make are who you tie up with and how you do business with them, and whether you both have the same value sets, and then who's on your executive and whether they have the same value sets. And people and money mistakes are the biggest ones you make.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about mine? Probably not. but you learn through the capital raising process who would make a good investor.
Yeah.
And you get I guess focused in that process, and you start to try and reduce, even though you never know. You actually never know. With our team growth, we've gotten better at understanding the type of person that will do the job today, not hiring for tomorrow, because the business changes too quickly.
Yeah. And
we've had to be very clear on whether they'll actually do the work or whether they'll want the job 2 jobs down the road but don't really want to do the work today. And we rather than disappoint people, we now have a really polite view of what we need to do today, which we didn't know 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because the business was changing, media was changing. It's still changing. You need more digital skill sets every minute, more analytical skill sets every minute. The creative bit, I think, is the bit we do well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Analyzing and tweaking and performance marketing and highly strategic roles are things that we're now learning out in the next phase. We're moving to a growth team from having a tech team, and we've actually probably not done that early enough. That's probably my biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Is not pushing the business to become a growth business early enough.
Okay.
So we might look like we're growing fabulously, but that's how ambitious I am. Is that
it's not growing fast enough, or it could have grown earlier.
Could have grown earlier.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, we had to test out travel the right way,
yeah,
determine which business model we wanted to work in. We could have come faster through some of those phases, but you never learn that on the job. You learn it in hindsight,
horrible,
right?
It's
bloody awful.
I wish we never had it.
Time and money, man. Can I just have it all back?
Yeah. Especially the time part. I forget the money. I just want the time back.
Well, you need money to have time, right? You've got to be able to pay people, and that's
very true.
That's a big part of it. Is if people all are combined on using money well, we all get further towards growth, and that's exciting. More services for 60-year-olds is what I say.
Yeah. I just wanted to share. So on that night, all the other teams were, let's just say, well behaved. When it came to people getting up and pitching, everyone was just clapping and all the rest of it. You got up there, your team was screaming, they were loving it. Like it was really cool to watch. It honestly, it didn't just feel like you were watching a boss up there. You know, it felt like you're watching a very close family member up on stage. How have you gone about developing a team that feels like more of a family, more so than a work team? I could be completely wrong here because it's just an external perception, but it definitely had a different feel to when the majority of other people got up on stage.
Oh, that's so nice. The team we've developed has developed through hard work. And I would say that culturally, they've developed through the bumps and the hits and the successes together. And they've ridden through that together. So every lesson we have has been learned together. So if I can tell you about the bumps of the last years in chasing the right types of growth, not the wrong types, in chasing the right types of traffic, not the wrong types. We've all had to learn that together. And losing good people and hiring good people and losing bad people, you can always see the team sigh of relief when a bad person leaves the building, right?
That's how you know you made the right decision, right?
It's a team building approach when your team sort of makes that person uncomfortable enough to have them leave, right? Because that's the reality of a team, is they form their own way. And teams aren't built by... teams are helped by leaders, they're guided by leaders, but teams are formed by teams creating their own culture. And if you think you can do it with a lolly bowl, you're wrong. You can't do it with formed up meet-up structures and having structured, team building events. Sure, we do a bit of that once a year, tick the box. What happens better is having amazing team managers that our executive team, I would say, are the reason our team is so strong. Right, I had a travel, absolutely, the travel team would follow her off a cliff. I had a media, the media team would follow her off a cliff. The growth team, they'd follow him off a cliff, right? It is that powerful a business in that way that's how we've built the culture. And until I got those guys right, we didn't have that feeling.
How did you get that right though? Is there I guess a lesson?
Crap loads of sad lessons.
Yeah.
Just you really... I have a formula for our business where I've learned what types of people are really good with me as well. Yeah. Like the parties often... the roles those people play are different to the roles the CEO plays, and the CEO has to learn to play their role in a scale up, because nobody teaches you how to be a CEO if you've never been one before. So you go through different stages of doing the work yourself, releasing that to an executive team to manage the work, and then them going through the same pain you went through of not knowing how not to do it all themselves as well, and mentoring them through the no, let's get up on top of this and look down and work out what things need to be solved and what team members you've got that can do that work. And that in itself is actually what team members are missing, what's the gaps, how do you get everybody carrying their weight so that we go up the mountain together.
It's a bit of a broad question, but do you have any, personality traits that you look for in every person in the business?
Yeah. Yep. Resilience.
Yeah.
Speed. And an ability to adapt to change. We actually find, and an ability to learn. Any one of those missing, and we probably can't employ the person because we are not a business that stands still, and if we decide something's not working the way we want it to, we change it. And if somebody doesn't like change and they push back on it, it becomes an inability to mobilize that shift quickly.
Yeah.
And change the business model, or flip the payment cycle, or change the way we do something.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got resistance to change, I was speaking to someone, they say go work in government, right?
Oh,
I guess that's...
go work in some beautiful corporate that competes with us.
Oh yeah, 100%. Until eventually you're that big beautiful corporate with still all the benefits.
I hope we never do that. I hope we...
Size-wise though.
I don't aspire to that. I aspire to being the right size business for a digital company.
That's actually a perfect segue into my next question was, where do you want to see the business in, I guess, the 1, 3, 5 year marks? Do you have any big, hairy, audacious goals?
They've made me write down my financial plans. That's how come I know them off by heart. Because at this point of scale up, you have to commit to growth, right? You have to commit to making a revenue stream in order to get both suppliers to want to work with you. You've got to be selling something. And to get everything to work, to be able to afford advertising, you've got to be able to make money, right? So now it's the hard, sticky part of growing. In 1 year, we plan to have travel well and truly up and flying in Australia. I can't give you numbers, sorry.
No, don't. No,
well and truly up and flying.
Never
in
asked for
3
numbers,
years. We plan to be the synonymous travel business for the demographic in Australia.
You want to be that household name where it's, I need to book something, let's go. Like,
first place to
travel
look.
at 60,
First place to look. Marketing. We should be the platform
Yeah.
for travel, for the baby boomer. We are already the platform for the baby boomer for media. So it's a privilege. And for us, that business is about growing a more resilient business, like more depth, more scope, more partnerships, more, and that business's motto for the next year is reinventing retirement. So we are going to continue to evolve that business to be synonymous with how do you reinvent. We're just going to give you all the pathways, all the information, all the insights, and all the real people who are doing it, and just keep providing you the tools and be your guide. Travel at 60, on the other hand, is your curator. And increasingly we'll spin off other businesses that curate into areas where we discover as a guide that there's a problem. We've got to discover the problem first and work out which way to solve it, whether it's with partnerships, in finance, to curate proper products that really do serve the needs of the generation, not just sort of slap on a badge. We're not in the business of slapping on a badge. Or whether it's developing health solutions that meet the needs of this demographic.
Yeah.
With partnerships or ourselves, like travel, where we've gone in and done a lot of it ourselves and then worked with the best operators to build out the solutions. So, yeah, it's kind of, we don't kind of know. As far as the US goes, if we're showing any kinds of light in travel this year, I'd like to see us entering the US the following year, because the baby boomer is 4 years off turning 60 in full. Wow. So if there's ever been an economic time, today
now
is it.
100%.
So why go slow when you can go fast?
Exactly right.
But we've got to have a stable, nicely growing, good opportunity for this generation to benefit, because it's not about the ride for me. It's about what we end up providing for the generation as a legacy in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been an absolutely amazing interview, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I guess just before we all finish up, I'd love to know any final thoughts, any final lessons that you'd love to give any of the younger or aspiring people that are listening, or even the people that are up and running and just need to hear something cool.
Something cool. I don't know. I don't know. Just always, I think probably the piece that I left my... No, I did. Revenue models a little long, and I think some of it is when I meet startups, they're all about the idea but not about the way to execute on it. And I think some of the execution of a model is worthwhile really hammering out. Learn how to model, learn how to think out your business staging. Yeah. It's some of the best assets we have now is the thinking about how to get up the mountain, not just what the mountain looks like. Yeah. It's very easy to get excited about a big idea with a big opportunity. How's it going to make money? How the hell are you going to get there? Because you've got to have the right people in every single chair on that bus, or the bus can't get up the mountain. Yeah, no, it's so true. I definitely feel like startup has that culture of thinking about the big idea, but not thinking about, as you said, the bus journey to get there, right? And it's never an overnight success. No, I would say there's probably 5 very entertaining years ahead of us. Yeah, that I can't wait to just kind of experience. I might not be the CEO at the end of that. I reckon we'll probably need somebody better than me. But I hope we find that out along the way. I hope we find, and I'm actually, my dad said to me when I started it, I said to Dad, how am I going to make this 60? Because I'm not 60. He said, you'll find people along the way. Yeah. And we've found the most wonderful people in our community, with 550 bloggers. Wow. We have 100 meetups a month all around the country, run by volunteer 60-year-olds who meet up in coffee shops everywhere. Thousands of people meet up every month. We've found along the way to bring 60 into our room because digital is so heavily led by digital skill sets, and they only come out of where you can find digital skill sets, which, let me tell you, it's even hen's teeth in Brisbane, let alone at 60, right? So finding the forefront people means you have to be absolutely non-discriminatory in where you take them from, right? Yeah, the best skills for the job. That's absolutely it. Male, female, anywhere. Purple hair, green hair, tattoos. You can 60, anything, right? So you really are trying to run a forefront digital business, and that lesson is learning out that you'll find it along the way. You'll keep finding it along the way. Sometimes the people are there with you for a short time. And my first hire, she left me after a year, and I thought I'd never find anybody like her again. Aww. And the one that got away. No, she went off and lived a life in Japan and is having a wonderful time.
Oh, that is amazing.
And, wife of a footballer, that whole thing. And in fact, what she did was gave me the confidence that I could recruit. And that I could find people that I could work with, because in marketing I'd never found a lot of them. So now you end up seeing the result of, some of my clients turned around to me and said, you just hire one at a time, Beck. And I can remember the accountant that I worked with, he said the same thing. He said, I have no idea how I'm ever going to recruit. I've got no experience at this. And he said, you just go one staff member at a time. And those learnings are then how many mistakes you make. How many times you realise you hired the wrong skill set and they didn't want to do the job. Or you hired somebody who wanted to be managing director to do that job instead of somebody who wanted to be sales manager. And they told you they wanted to be sales manager for now until they got to managing director, and then you realised you couldn't actually slow them down enough to get the job done. And all of those lessons come along the way. You just find it out along the way, and you get more confidence that the stuff I don't know right now, as long as I'm willing to learn, that's why our team has to be willing to learn.
Yeah.
And find great mentors. That's the other piece of advice I'd have for you. Yeah. I was very fortunate early on to ask somebody that I had known peripherally to help me. And I asked a couple of people that I knew peripherally, because once you're in those startup circles, there's also a lot of, can I say there's a lot of Klingons in that sector that are service providers that are looking for a stake in your business, and looking early on, they're trying to grab on. I would say go to people you trust. Don't go to the network yet when you're early on. Work out whether you've got a considered idea by going to people you really do trust. Because I went into the network, I met some amazing people, and then I realised I needed to go home and execute. Yeah. And I came back to Brisbane. I settled in with people I really trusted, and those people are still around me today. That's our chairman. He absolutely has guided me every step of those hiring disasters, of the growth pain, of the good bits. He's there when we have our biggest days ever, the exciting moments when we drink champagne, when we hire an amazing executive. He's a big part of choosing what's going to work with me well, which is important, right?
Absolutely.
If I want to be here for a long time. So, and working out what our alternative skill sets are. And mentors, they give you a lot along the way. And hopefully you give a lot to them as well, because I know he gets a whole lot of fun lessons that he doesn't get out of his corporate work.
Yeah, 100%.
Out of hanging around us too. He sees all the pain, laughs with me in the dark. You got to laugh or you'd cry.
Oh, you have to, exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't get through if you didn't laugh, right?
Yeah, so it is a privilege.
Perfect. Just as a final note, how can everyone find you, find your company, everything like that? Of course, it'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, come and visit us at startsatsixty.com. That's startsat60.com, and travel@60.com. We'd love to see you online, and if you have a mum or a dad in their 60s, tell them we're here.
For sure, and on Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, and definitely on Facebook and on Instagram. And on YouTube, and I can keep going.
They're absolutely massive. So if you type in starts at 60, you'll find absolutely.
We are the number one search term for over 60s in Australia.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and jump over to lessonsfromsuccess.com.au and make sure you jump on that email list so I can notify you as soon as any more shows come out. I'm your host, Bryn Turner, and thank you so much for joining us.